Hi ladies, I apologize. Last night I wasn't able to record because obviously I'm not a confident wife, but I tried to be confident and I wasn't confident. So anyways, point being is that I didn't get to record, and some of you have contacted me asking me if we had recorded. And so I thought what I would do is I would go through some of the things that I talked about last night, and I won't be able to say all of it obviously because there'd be nothing worse than sitting here and watching me for an hour. I can only imagine what that would be like. But anyways, I know I wouldn't do it. So what I wanted to talk about was a little bit of, I'm looking for the verse in my phone, of what we talked about in Proverbs 31 and who she was, who this virtuous woman is, and who she, how she affects our lives, and the approaching of her, and why so many people don't approach her, and why so many people either do one of two things. That's that they either avoid that text and they avoid her and they avoid the challenge and the trying to understand her, or they avoid or they overindulge it and they kind of turn her into like a sort of Stepford wife tick list. And I had talked about how through that I've been a Christian for 30 years, and that through all those 30 years I've approached her in different ways. And one of the ways was to just take her full on and try to be like her, or what my interpretation of her was, or what I thought other godly women's interpretation of her was. And so I would, I tried to become like this ultra feminine, being that was super powered, but obviously that didn't work. I gave up really easy. And then I approached her with a sort of a Martha Stewart-y kind of, let's just, I can sew, I can this, I can that, and tick box all these little things that she was able to do, and then compare myself to see if I was able to do those things, or try to make myself do those things, or have the perfectly clean house, have the perfectly done laundry, have the perfect everything, and be the Uberfrau, the Uber Hausfrau, and that didn't work either, because I'm human. And then I just thought maybe the best approach would be to just completely ignore her and act like she didn't exist, and just get to know all the scriptures around her and all the Bible verses around her, and that would be sort of where I would go from there. But then through the summer and being your teacher for almost 8 years now, I felt like I couldn't avoid her any longer. I felt like I've given you a really good grounding and a really good understanding of a lot of very difficult scriptures. But I thought it was time to face her. I thought for myself it was also time to face her again at a different stage in life. And my approach was to not face her as I saw a lot of people facing her. Because like I told you last night, I got on YouTube and I started following all these different Bible studies, and I was like, what are other Bible teachers saying about this Proverbs 31 virtuous woman? And what I found is that everything was a bit stinky. I didn't like any of it. And the reason why was because it wasn't that I didn't like any of it, I didn't like a lot of it. And the reason why was I didn't feel like it was a teaching of the Bible and a teaching of scriptures. I felt like it was a teaching of how to be a perfect person, or a perfect woman, or a perfect wife. And it was about it was just things like, obviously we'll get further into it, but I felt like they bypassed who she was in general, down to the core of who she was. And they got very specific about her appearance and her habits. And then they tried to apply those to us by saying, you need to go to the gym, you need to be the perfect wife to your husband, you need to, your curl in your hair needs to be a 2.3 exactly, the way that you do this and the way that you do that. And it started becoming, just a rundown of how to be a better person. And it didn't really take us into the scriptures. It didn't take us into the text of what that passage is saying. And then I felt that there was a lot of people who taught, in a sense, rhetoric. They were saying things like, I got on a couple Bible studies and they were teaching, and the first 45 minutes was a very positive, emotive, shouting at you of how great and amazing you are, and you're chosen, and you're wonderful, and you're a superwoman, and you're brave, and you can do anything, and don't you know, and you just wield your sword. And I don't know what any of that stuff was or what it meant. So I thought, you know what, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's get down to the scriptures. Let's get down to what God says in the Bible. And like last night, I only want to talk about verse 1, where we see in this beautiful poem and in this book of wisdom, these little nuggets of wisdom. And like, I was having a conversation with my husband today about it, and he was like, listen, these are ideals. They're things to aspire to. Not every human can do and be these things. But what we learned with this woman in particular is that she does these things because she's a woman who loves God, and she's a woman who pursues God, and she's a woman that represents God. And just alone in the first verse in Proverbs 31 verse 10, it says, who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is more precious than rubies. And I told you a little bit about what this word means, because if all I do is tell you that a virtuous woman, that you are a virtuous woman, let me tell you what you are. You are noble, you are this, you are that. I'm missing out on what the text is saying. And what I want to tell you about what it says, that word virtuous means, it's a characteristic. And I think that God is interested in our character, and what's at the absolute core of who we are is our character, and who we say that we are, and what we say and what we do. And it's our character. And her character, this word virtuous, it means to be firm and strong, honest, and one of my favorite ones, strength like a tree, fruitful, able, brave, powerful, warrior, army, and a force, and righteous. I love that last one, righteous. And it was a word that was used in reference to King David's men of valor, his warriors. And here a woman is being described as a woman of valor, a great warrior, and a woman of great strength. And what I learned by studying it is that I'm not a woman of great strength. I'm not a woman of great valor. I'm human, and I live by the grace of God. And so how do I become her? And when I envisioned her, because she's in this vocabulary of being this strong, powerful warrior, I envisioned Boadicea, and I envisioned Rosie the Riveter, and I just envisioned these strong images. It evoked strong images of these sort of fighter type women and these battle ready women. And then I started researching all the different female warriors of history, which was really exciting, but that's on the other note. So anyways, so as I looked at her, I just thought, I'm not Boadicea. I'm not Rosie the Riveter. I've tried that. What is this saying to me? And the more I looked at her, the more I thought, out with God, I can't be any of these things. Outside of my relationship with him, and outside of me being found in him and being wrapped up in him and involved with him and in the Bible and in my prayer life, if I don't bathe myself in those things, if I don't take that time to sit with him, if I try to be her, there's no character. But if I do those things and I attempt to walk in his grace being her, there's a possibility. And in him is where strength is found. My strength is sufficient in your weakness. In him, my boldness is found. Don't be afraid when you go before the publicans. I'll give you the words. In him, I'm like a tree, firmly planted. In him is where I find that I'm able to be fruitful and overcome my, disgusting sin. It's in him that I learn how to be honest in the face of not wanting to hurt people's feelings or make any enemies, but yet God's telling me to speak the truth. It's in him that I learned to be firm and powerful and brave. And I can only be a warrior in him. I'm not a warrior for him or in him until I get saved. Ephesians 6 is what makes me a warrior in the spiritual warfare. So this virtuous woman becomes virtuous by being in him, by being found in him. And to me, that's salvation. To me, that's going to the cross. It's starting at ground zero. It's getting back to where this all began. And that was beginning that salvation journey with him and being with him. And that day of discovery of his true love for me, his depth of care for me, his wonder over me. And then me reciprocating that, the amazingness of God. And the only way this can be found is just really being alone with him, being in a relationship with him, in a friendship with him. And then I thought about the next part where it says, who can find her? It's almost like there's sort of some sarcasm involved with that, but maybe that's me reading into it. But who can find her? She's impossible to find. Who knows where she's at? Does anybody know who can find this girl? And I just kept thinking, Christ found me. He found me. And I was of value to him. I was of worth to him. And he saw in me the potential that no one else could see. And so I started thinking about that verse in Philippians where it says that, in Philippians 3:9, it says, and be found in him, not having a righteousness of your own that comes from the law, but that which is through Christ, through faith in Christ. And I kept thinking about that. The true woman of God is found in God and following God and practicing God and putting her faith in God. Faith for her own life, faith for her own choices, faith for taking on new challenges, faith for being a mom, faith for being a wife, faith for, dealing with whatever's brought our way. Faith in him. And then it goes on to say, what's her worth? Like it says she's more valuable than, and I really concentrated on the word more. You're above, like he says she's more valuable than rubies, and you think of the value of rubies, or she's more valuable than pearls or jewelry or whatever it is she's listed as being more valuable in. But the important word is that she's more valuable than that. See, when I used to read it, oh, she's as valuable as, but we're more valuable than that. And that's amazing because the world doesn't make value a lot of times of people. I work with kids constantly, and I see that there's very little value placed in how amazing they are and how great they are. And we ourselves have been through trials and tribulations and situations in our own life that have stripped us of worth and have stripped us of value. But our worth and our value is more than. Well, then what is that value? And the only thing that could come to me was Galatians 3. And the first 4 words of 3 says, Christ paid the price. That's your value. That's my value. The value of God's only son. My value was his life, him stepping down from his throne in heaven, him coming down. That was the worth and the value. And that's astounding. Because in one sense, I look at it and I think, gosh, the perfect glory and power that put earth into this place is the glory and power that steps down, looks at me straight in the eyes and says straight up, you are worth it. And I paid the price. And then it goes on and says the exact same 4 words in verse 14. Christ paid the price. The value was this much. You're more than. He came and he paid it. So this virtuous woman is purchased, is bought, is loved and adored by God. And we only become her when we're found in him and we're bathed in him. And we become so many things once we discover him and he comes into our lives. We're promised so many things. We're a royal priesthood, a holy nation. We're become righteous. We have fruit born from our lives. We become stronger than what we were, bolder than what we were. And Christ did that for us. It says he gave his life to purchase freedom for everyone. 1 Timothy 2:6. He gave his life as the price. And so as we talked about last night, that, let's get down to the core of who she is and her character. And her character is she loves God. She wants to be with him. And the base foundation of building her and building what we're going to see, because we're going to see this list of all these glorious and amazing things she does, but we're not going to be able to fulfill those things rightly. Like I think it's going to be about more of our character and our attitude in that list than it is about being able to sew, being able to clean, being able to cook, being able to be good at this or good at that. It's going to be more about our attitude and our character in that. So once again, apologies for not getting it taped last night. And I really do hope that you come along and that you're encouraged to do that and that you can make your way to us. And I'll promise to record it next time. I'll be a capable wife, right? Okay. See you later. Bye.